Hello everyone, it's Brett with the Real Estate Role-Playing Group. Welcome to week number 2246 of the Real Estate Role-Playing Group. That is for the week of Monday, November 14th through November 18th. And this is really kind of the last full week that we're going to have before we go into what I call the holiday season, because week 47 is the Thanksgiving week in the United States, that is, and then it's going to be seasonal. It's going to be the seasonal season that I call the holiday season from that week 47, all the way up until week 2 of January. But don't let your foot completely off the gas. There's still a lot of things that you can do right now. Stay in lead generation, stay in lead follow-up. Yes, you're going to be getting we want to wait until after the holidays objection. Comes around every single year, but we're going to be practicing that. But stay in tune with them, stay top of mind. Showcase your expertise, send them out information on the market, what's going on, what's not going on, and be that go-to expert, because the things that you do now are going to be directly related to the things that you close in January, February, and March. Promise you, happens every single year. So before we dive into the schedule this week, I want to share with you guys something first, and those are the objections that you say that you're getting. So when you go and sign up for the weekly scheduling, every now and then I have a question there that says, what ails you? What objection are you getting most? Now, most of you follow the instructions and you share that information. Others use that as something to talk about something completely unassociated with it, and that's fine, but 90% of you are contributing and providing that information. Now, what you'll find is that when I say that 90% of objections are the same, regardless of buyer, regardless of seller, regardless of market, you're going to see that it's actually true. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share with you what are the top objections that you say that you're getting. So number one, we have a broker. Okay, I don't necessarily know if that's an objection. That's probably more of a condition, and you can't rebuttal conditions. If they have a broker, if they're working with an agent, move on, because you don't want to encroach on somebody else's agency agreement, whether that's a buyer or the seller. So just move on. It's fine. The market's not good now. We'll wait. Okay, wait until what? Wait until it gets better? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what happens if the market doesn't get better? What happens if you start chasing the market down? What are you going to do then? And this is why it's important that we go into what is the why, what is the when? What is their motivation to move? If all they want to do is to move just for the sake of moving, they're not going to move, and they're going to be horrible clients. But if they have a reason to move, maybe a job transfer, maybe they can't afford it, maybe they lost income, maybe they're in default, who knows, whatever the reason. But if they have to move, that's motivation. That's who we want to focus with. But if the market's not good now, we'll wait. Well, what's their motivation? And if they have strong motivation, Mr. and Ms. Seller, what will happen if the market continues to deteriorate, doesn't come back, and you start chasing the market down, which costs you tens of thousands of dollars in lost equity? What are you going to do? Do you think that's going to happen? Well, look, back in the Great Recession, which is, it's still, 12 years ago? Something like that. It took us a decade to just break even. So if we're losing values now, what makes them think that it's going to come back like that? It's probably not. Bring us a buyer. Bring your buyer. Okay, so I'm assuming that you're calling it for sale by owner. Well, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as a matter of policy, I don't show properties to the people I represent without first seeing them first. So could I schedule a time with you sometime this week where I could come out just for 3, 4, 5 minutes just to preview the property? Could I do that? Well, why can't you just bring your buyer? Well, I really respect my buyer's time and I know what they're looking for. So I would like to just come and take a look at it first. If it's not an inconvenient, I can come by sometime this week at a time that's convenient for you and your family, just for 3 or 4 minutes. Can we do that? The key here is we just want to preview the property. Or if they say, hey, bring a buyer, okay, great. When are you going to hold the house open? When can we come and see it? There's a lot of things you can do with that. Someone else has a commission lower than yours? Absolutely they do. We are in the most competitive, in my opinion, one of the most competitive professions on planet Earth. Everybody's on a race to zero. So what I say is stop being a commodity. Stop competing on price and start competing on value. And that is, what is it that you provide to your client? How popular are you? Are you the go-to agent? Because the go-to agent, the person who's popular, the people who know the name in the market, did you know that they actually command a higher rate because of the consumer's perception. If they don't know you, like you, trust you, ever heard of you, you don't do anything in the area, yeah, you're going to have commission pressure onto that. So what do? Create content, become known. Buyers waiting for prices to come down. Well, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller or Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, how long are you going to wait until prices come down? Are you more interested in a price, or are you more interested in what you can afford as a payment? Well, we don't buy depreciating assets. Well, that's not necessarily true, because people buy new cars every single year. You may or may not want to use that, but we're waiting for prices to come down. Look, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what would happen if you're waiting for prices to come down and prices do come down, but yet you lose your loan program because the loan program that you used to have is no longer around? Could that happen? Absolutely, it could happen. How? Because I was in this business during the Great Recession, and loan programs went up like smoke. So it's possible. What would you do if prices come down and now you can't afford to buy? Now you can't get a lending to buy. Wouldn't it be better to buy now so you lock yourself into ownership and you can adjust as we go forward? You know, it's one of these things. You don't want to talk people into buying. You don't want to talk people into selling. That's salesy. You want to be of service. But in order to find out what ails them, you've got to ask questions. And those questions are going to be more of a pre-qualifying criteria on whether or not you're going to continue to invest time in working with them. Sellers, waiting for rates to come down. Well, you're probably going to be waiting a long time. How low do rates have to come before you do? Are you prepared to live in the house indefinitely? You know, go back to why and when. Why do you have to sell? The most important. Remember, you do not have a lead until you know somebody's why and you know somebody's when. So all the questions that you have on your first interactions with them the goal is to find out their why, and find out is their when. Then everything else, then you can have the dialogue from there. But all your questions need to be focused around finding out their why and their when. Converting leads to appointments. Look, converting leads to appointments, that's not really an objection. That's more of a statement that goes into there. And I don't know how it got on here, but I'm going to address it because it did. Converting leads to appointments is all about lead follow-up, lead nurturing. Lead conversion comes down to practicing. Are you practicing? Look, I can tell you right now that most of the people are in the scripts. Most people role play are in scripts. The second largest group is objection handling. The small groups go into lead follow-up, the pre-qualifying the appointments, and an even smaller group are the people who are practicing the listing presentation. You want to get better? You want to convert more leads to appointments? Get really good at the listing presentation. If you're really good there, you're going to have the confidence, and then get really, really good at the pre-qualifying the appointment, and you get really good at those two things, you're going to be an ace when it comes to objection handling, because you're not going to set yourself up for failure. Because a lot of times people don't want to they say they want to take an appointment, but because they're not ready to take an appointment, they haven't practiced the scripts, they haven't practiced the pre-qualifying, they don't have a shock and awe package, what we normally call a pre-meeting packet. They don't have any of that prepared. They self-sabotage because they're not ready. So take some time, dial that stuff in, practice, have the confidence to convert those leads into appointments. And are you calling those leads? Are those good leads to call? Do you know their why? Do you know their when? Because if you don't know their why and their when, they're not leads. You need to know their why and their when if you're going to call them a lead. Otherwise, they're prospects. What do you do different to get homes sold? Look, ladies and gentlemen, there are two things that consumers want to know. They want to know what you do and what you cost. Those two variables are what determines the value in the eyes of the consumer. So we have an idea of what everybody costs, but what is it that you do? Well, everybody has a lockbox, everybody's licensed, everyone can sell a house, everyone can fill out a purchase agreement, everyone has a lockbox access, but what is it that you do different? And this is where your popularity comes in. This is where creating content comes in. This is where you have to be the go-to top of the person agent, because if you're actually in a conversation and what you do and what you charge comes up, you're already on the defense. Your next listing appointment, your next buyer orientation has already started, and that's based on the content that you're creating, your presence of where the consumer's going. And the consumers, 90% of all consumers, according to the National Association of Realtors, are going online. So what's your presence on that? We don't want to reduce the price. If you have a buyer willing to pay our previous price, we will sell. Okay, so I'm guessing that is an expired listing. So what do we do on that? We frame our conversation around their why and their when. Okay, these guys don't want to reduce their price. Okay, that's fine. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look, I don't shoot the messenger. I don't want you to reduce your price, but what would you do if the market continues to deteriorate and the gap between what you can really sell it for versus what you really want? What are you going to do if that gap continues to widen? Are you just going to stay in the home? Yeah, we're going to die in this home. Perfect. Look, that was what you were looking to do. Someone who's willing to die in the home does not have the motivation to sell the home now. So that's what we're doing. Those are the objections for that. What you'll find is that all these objections are on my YouTube channel. Every single one of them. Repeated. They're all repeated in different versions. One person might say it this way and one person might say it this way. The scenario might be a little different, but it always comes down to, what do you do different? What is your service? What kind of experience do you have? How much do you charge? Will you reduce your commission? Someone else will. They're all the same. 90% of the objections, 90% of the questions are going to be the same. The 10% that are different are going to be unique to the consumer, to the seller, to the buyer, and their situation. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get into what's going on for next week. So scripts, we're going to keep the same schedule. Why? Because I didn't get a chance to switch it up. So we're going to continue with the same schedule. If in fact you want to work on a different script, this is a recommendation. So work with your partner and say, hey, I don't want to do the just listed script. Are you okay with practicing the expired listing or the lead follow-up or something else, right? This is a suggestion. But Monday just listed, Tuesday's old expireds. You should be going after those, by the way. Old expireds, just listed, around just listed, around just sold, doing lead follow-up, contacting your sphere of influence. It's the fourth quarter going into the holiday season. You most definitely want to get talking with them if you haven't. And then any for sale by owners. These are all things that you should have sources of business coming from. So those are the scripts. I did switch up the objections. And on the schedule, you're going to have a link to all the suggested objection handling. So I'm going to take a break, and I have no rush to sell it now. Look, people are making that. I want to take a break. I want to wait until after the holidays. I want to wait until after New Year's. I want to whatever. It's always going to be something. I'm going to take a break. There's no rush. Some of them, look, you're not going to be able to get rid of it. That's why it's important to stay active in this time frame, because they may be ready in January, February, March. Just stay up to speed with them. Don't be that person that calls and you're talking to them and then suddenly you're disappearing for 2 months and then reappearing when it's done, because chances are somebody else is staying more contact. Put them on a follow-up campaign. Stay engaged with them. Put them on an weekly email campaign about the market. Send them a monthly newsletter. Do something to stay in front of them. Don't harass them. Tuesday, other agents will lower their commission. Why not you? Oh, number one, I'm not other agents. Number two, are you familiar with what I do to get homes sold? So there's a lot of different ways you need to do this. This comes down to your value. Value is a mathematical equation. It is what the perceived value of the goods and services that a consumer gets divided by the price they actually pay. And that'll come out to whatever it comes out to. So this person, if they're looking at real estate agents and all things being equal, right? They all look the same, they all offer the same, they all do the same thing, they all have no presence in their market, then the only way you can affect value is by lowering the price. And that means that you're turning you and your service into a commodity. And when you're dealing with commodities, the lowest price is always going to prevail. So what you need to do is you need to increase your value by increasing your perceived worth of the goods and services that you provide. How do you do that? By creating content, by being the expert of the neighborhood, by knowing everything that's going about everything and creating content. That's what we're talking about. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm creating content, which is giving you value, which is putting me as the perceived expert in this space, and I am, if I don't say so myself. Wednesday, what do you do to get homes sold? What do you do to get a home sold? Thursday, we're going to wait until next year. Okay, yeah, that's going to come up. Notice how that's almost the exact same objection on Monday. Hey, Mr. and Ms. Seller, if you don't, you're going to wait until next year. What would happen if the prices continue to drop and the market continues to shift? If it were to cost you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 by waiting to put it on the market, is that still the case? Are you still that set on doing that? Yeah, Brad, it doesn't matter. We have family coming in. We need a place. We're not moving to, this is what we're doing. Okay, now you have the answer. Friday. I want to list a property higher than you recommend. Check that out. Yeah, that's happening. Why is that happening? Because rates are going up, demand is going down, and the sellers are always late to the party. They're always late to the party. They always think that their home value doesn't adjust as fast as demand. That's where the term chasing the market down comes up. Because once they figure it out, once they get the memo, they do a price adjustment, and the market's still gone further. So you don't want to be that way. Now let's go into the listing sequence. We do this all the time, Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday is pre-qualifying the listing or the buyer appointment. Thursday is a listing consultation, buyer consultation. You should be doing these on Zoom. You should really be doing these on Zoom because the way that you practice should be the most like the way in person. And yes, you'd like to do face-to-face, but I want to give you guys some insight here. It's 2022, almost 2023. People are doing business. People are doing listing presentations, buyer orientations. People are doing business via Zoom. So don't look at this as just a practice to be face-to-face. Why don't you be different and try to figure out a way to make things work? You'll save more time implementing Zoom. For those of you who've been in the group for a long time, this is something that I've been preaching well before COVID shut us down and put us into this digital environment. So you need to practice it and give people options. Because I'll tell you one thing. If I was selling my house, number one, if I were to hire an agent to sell my house, which I wouldn't because why would I? It would be very difficult with my schedule, with as much as I travel, and just my personality. Why do I need to meet with you in person? Why do I need to clean the house? Because we have to clean the house anytime we have any guests come up. Why do we need to do that? To burn more than an hour time, possibly have someone show up with their sleeping bag to put a sales when I can do this. My wife could be here in California. I could be anywhere, and we could jump on and find out what we need. But you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the other fun fact. Did you know that 77% of all sellers only meet with one agent before they choose to list a property? True fact. National Associations of Realtors Home Buyers and Seller Report. 77% only interview one agent. How is that so? Because they've already done their due diligence. They've already done their discovery before they met with the person. The decision being made, according to Google, that a consumer, 88% of consumers have already decided the product or the product they're going to buy or the service they're going to use before they meet a person because of the behavior, the online behavior. Let that one think in. You hear me talk about creating content. You hear me talking about being top of mind. Let that think in, that decisions, and if you think about it, you are a consumer, chances are you do the same thing. You choose a restaurant, you've already made your choice on where you're going to. Before you get there, accountant, doctors, dentists, agents, CPAs, accountants, you name it. Your decision's already made. You typically only interview one person. Okay, that's all I got for you guys today. That is it for this week's role playing. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. More training to come. I got some cool things I'm still working on. We're still working out some keys, but they're going to be coming soon that are going to help you grow and scale your business going into next year. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.